Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of Your Honor Season 2, Episode 2. This was again directed by Peter Solid, who did the premiere, but this time it's written by Danny Vitri. Now, what was a little confusing about Episode 1 in hindsight, because now we're in Episode 2, is I don't think they did clearly enough the time jump that's happened here with the Baxters and the Desire Gang. I feel like it feels like you have to adjust to, like, wait, where are we? Because so much of Episode 1, really, majority of it, was taking place in the past, following the events of the finale last season. What everything that was taking place in the current timeline that we're caught up to now in this episode was everything with Michael in the prison. So really what was happening in episode 1 was the Baxter storyline with the Desire was catching up to the main storyline in present day with Michael getting out of prison. So it did feel a little weird. And what you realize looking back is that Fia, at the end when she's writing the letter to Michael, because she is with what we learn now is the grandson, that scene at the end of the first episode was actually now caught up a year later from the events of what happened with Adam, and now it's caught up to Michael. And that's where we jump into this episode. So it just felt weird jumping right into it. You're like, wait, what? She's not living with her parents, and Desire, it's a year later. So you have to kind of just sit in and take a deep breath and figure out where you are, which I think would have been a little smoother if they maybe got everyone clearly into that year time jump at the end of last episode. Anyway, jumping into this episode, we're going to split into 3 parts. We'll start with everything going on with Michael, then the Baxters, and then we'll finish off with Desire. So everything with Michael gets even more dark really quick. We see that he looks at his old house that he lived with Adam on the way to going to stay with his mother-in-law, Elizabeth. You notice on rewatch when you first see him going into this house of Elizabeth's, he looks first thing into the pantry. So he's already getting ideas of sleeping there, but also getting ideas of where he might commit suicide. Because remember, he was suicidal clearly in prison, so now he's out, so he has the means to do it without worrying about getting caught by a security guard. And it gets darker and darker because then when he's staying in the guest bedroom, he can't even stand to look at a picture of Adam. It hurts him too much. It hurts him to look at pictures of his ex-wife, everyone he has lost in his life. And you see it gets darker because then he has ideas with the dog leash to possibly commit suicide. We also see in his storyline this episode that he was going to try to warn Charlie at the mayor's office about him having snitched on him and that he could be in trouble by Olivia, but Olivia's got an eye on Michael, has him banned from the mayor's office, already is a step ahead of him, knowing he might do that, and says, look, if you go do that, you're going to go to prison, and so is Charlie, so it's going to not help you at all. And, you know, he's trying to explain to her, like, I can't do this, it's not I'm refusing you, I just can't, he's not all there, but she's kind of pushing him along here, giving him a regular job to save face, obviously, to other people about his release. And you see this butcher he's working for now is someone he had actually helped in the past as an honorable judge at the time. What's interesting is when Charlie goes to see Michael here, and he's talking about only 3 people know about his involvement with the car. His friend Rudy, who won't squeal, he said, you and me. So he feels safe. He's like, no one's going to say anything, but he doesn't know that Michael has already said something, and Michael wants to tell him so badly to protect him, but does not. But what I did like about the writing in this scene is that Michael actually says to Charlie, and Charlie's remorse to Charlie's feeling about being involved with the car and what happened to Kofi, that Michael's like, well, it was only a car, not a body. But see, that's how Michael would justify so many things he did in the prior season. Where Charlie, at least when he feels remorse, admits it, like he acknowledges what he's doing, because he says it was a coffin with a set of headlights, which is some really good writing. And he's talking about, again, even though he just moved a car, he knows that this was what ended up getting Kofi killed. And this is where Charlie's also saying he sees as Adam dying is what they got for their sins. So he always has had a different kind of way of thinking than Michael, where they both do these bad things and cover-ups, and they're both corrupt. But at the end of the day, at least Charlie can kind of admit what he's caused, where Michael, again, just knows how to justify things and simplify them. So like I had said in my last episode, they're clearly setting up Fia to be the key here for Michael, and that she's distancing herself from her family. And you see his next delivery stop is the Baxter Hotel. This is where he runs into Fia. They bond a bit over Adam, and they even hug here. And you see their relationship's going to get even tighter now because of this big reveal that her baby is Adam's baby and that Michael has a grandson. And his name is Rocco Adam Baxter, named after her brother who died, who Adam killed, and now Adam is the middle name. And what's wild about that is she doesn't even know that Adam killed her brother. But this is the thing that's going to keep Michael going. It wasn't strong enough for him to be protecting Charlie. That just wasn't enough. This is the thing that will keep him from committing suicide, is now having this new life that he is blood to, this grandson. So I actually do like this reveal and this twist to really make me believe that Michael would kind of keep going here and try to do something that motivates him and gives him a fire to take down the Baxters, per se. So I'm interested to see where this goes with that. Now we see, let's jump to the Baxter story in this episode. You see that with Fia, she's living in the hotel, not with her family. So there's a lot of stuff we haven't seen in this year. And I wonder how much she has learned about her father, which they alluded to last episode. She's getting more suspicious of her family and what they really do. And I don't think she knows yet that her father was trying to kill Adam. Because if she did, she would want to know why. And then that would eventually lead to her knowing that Adam killed her brother. So she just does not know this vital piece of information yet, which could set up something tragic in the finale of this show, which I'm feeling if she does ever find out. Now, we learn more about Gina Baxter here. So what they're clearly doing in this episode is setting the tone for the season, where last season a lot of characters were very paper thin. They were all serving the purpose of the plot for Michael, where now we're getting characters getting their own screen time and own character development. So we see that with Gina, we see that Big Mo, we see that even with Eugene, aka Justin, now. So that was an interesting choice to me. I think it's a smart move always with writing, giving character development, giving more layered characters. It's just deciding how much we actually care about some of these characters is going to be the challenge, because they're kind of writing from characters that are already set last season, so it makes it harder to now make us actually want to care and invest in them when it's not the first time we're meeting them. So we'll see how they can kind of turn this around. And again, that's why it's so weird to me they even announced this the final season, because then it makes you like wonder, like, okay, how much time do we even have to invest in this character? What's the payoff for us? But you see with Gina, they're showing you her really anger side, her vicious side, leaning into that. And you see in the support group, she's like, my daughter suggests I have anger issues. And the counselor's like, maybe you do. And she's like, oh, F you. That was really funny, actually. But you see Jimmy is really broken by losing Fia more and more now. And it's shown how much he's keeping an eye on her. He saw Michael and Fia hug, which is huge. So I wonder how he's going to feel about that. He's watching her at the bar. And you see also Gina and Jimmy aren't even sleeping in the same room together. So a lot has happened in this year we're hopefully going to find a lot about. I was saying the last episode they did a good job of not having a lot of silly stuff happening like what happened a lot in season 1. But something very silly to me kind of happened here, where when Jimmy and Gina are pleading to Carlo here in the kitchen to get Fia back to live with them, I love that Jimmy's right-hand man just walks into the kitchen and is just like, Michael Desiato just got out of prison. So I thought that was just funny how he appeared right in their like family breakfast, like just came through the door. I thought that was so forced in and came off very funny. We'll see though, Carlo really doesn't make much of an attempt here to get Fia back. He comes off to me as someone who understands Fia with the parents and how crazy the parents are. So that's why I think that was a kind of an in and out. I don't think he's totally against Fia not living with them. I think he gets it. But what's really important was when Gina goes to see Fia, she doesn't help the relationship. She actually slaps Fia here. This is huge because this is again going to be things pushing Fia towards the side of Michael and leaving her family behind. And we see Gina, like she says to the support group, is not looking for acceptance. She actually embraces this anger she's feeling and wants to relish in it. So she said this is where she flourishes. So they're setting up Gina to really, really be the main antagonist in this season. And we already saw hints of that last season, where she's really, even though Jimmy's the one we're seeing a lot of, doing a lot of the moves, she's really pulling the big strings at the end of the day and is more aggressive. She's the one who had the house burned down of Eugene's family. So I do like the development they're giving to Gina here and setting her up for that. So now let's go to the Desire group. Now they are also in this year time jump. So with Big Mo, like I'm talking about character development, we're seeing now her girlfriend. We're seeing she's in this relationship, that the relationship's kind of on the rocks because you clearly see her girlfriend is frustrated that she doesn't have much time to spend. This woman, Big Mo, works 7 days a week. But she's already taken away from her because she gets news from Little Mo that they had 7 ODs and 2 dead in 1 day on the product they are selling. So the supplier they got it from, we learn, is cutting it with fentanyl. So you have to drop the supplier, find a new supplier. Little Mo is on the job. Little Mo happens to go to find the new supplier where he had sent Eugene off to, who's now Justin, living with Little Mo's aunt. And he's telling Justin, like, look, like, there's no trying here. This is your last chance. There's no trying and last chance. He's giving him a break. He has to step up and keep his stuff together. And that's really not happening here for Justin, because in school he's doing these disturbing drawings and like drawings he should not be doing at all. I can see him just doing the drawing of him running away from a building because people might be like, okay, yeah, he lost his family in a fire. But to draw the drawing that would implicate you in killing Adam, like, come on, man, what are you doing? But it's already him messing up to what Little Mo was just warning him about, like, to be careful because he's already on this teacher's radar, this police officer's radar, which you don't want if you're Eugene or the Desire Group. But you see, Little Mo's aunt tells Eugene, like, your past doesn't define you, and if you could be Justin, I can be Justin's guardian. So she's telling him, don't just stay in that past you're in as Eugene, right? Like, this is our time to embrace the change. Maybe embrace being Justin, and she'll go along with this to help him, and that he could still be good. Now, Little Mo uses his cousin to get an introduction to this supplier who supposedly has really good stuff, and he's got red flags all about him, this guy. I mean, he's talking about this stuff in front of his nephew and is fine with it, even though it's a different language, still shouldn't be doing that, so that kind of wigs Little Mo out a bit. But he only sells in bulk, so he kind of has to go with what this guy wants to get this new supply, and he needs to get the supply because they have nothing to sell for Big Mo, and she doesn't like that. But this is where I'm a little worried. This is where I started zoning out a bit. I don't know how interesting it is to learn all about how Desire is going to get a new supply. I think it's more important seeing the stuff with Big Mo about the club and her getting that, and that it would be near Gina and that she's moving towards a different territory. That makes sense, but learning how they're going to get a new supply and getting all this time, figuring that out, and also even just keeping the story going with Eugene, I don't know how interesting that is. You could have also just written it as he was away and not to worry too much about him, maybe check in with him later in the season, but I'm like, okay, it seems like they're setting up for a main story with him, so I just don't know how interesting that can be. So this club owner, though, that Big Mo is trying to buy from won't sell to her because of dirty money, but this is where she goes to Charlie again, this corrupt mayor, and she wants him to make it happen. This is the problem with Charlie, is that as we see in all these kind of stories and shows like this, like once you step your foot into the corrupt area and with these gangs or just criminals, you can't just get out. It's always going to keep coming back. You even see he says to her, like, okay, this is the last time we're making a deal, because yes, it still works for him because he can tell her to stop having ODs happen in her area. He can't have that happen, especially as mayor, but you know you're never just going to get away. But they do make a deal here, and it just looks worse for Charlie. He's blackmailing this club owner just to have him work with someone with dirty money. But the big reveal here is that, yes, Gina, the Baxters are right there near that club, so we got to see what Big Mo's long game is with the Baxters. It's just going to make things more interesting that they're so close to each other right there. But overall, I'm giving this episode an 8.2. Definitely a downgrade from the premiere. The premiere was more engaging and gripping to me. This had to set up a lot of character development, sure, but there's just certain characters I'm wondering, and storylines, okay, how interesting can this be? And I hope it gets more interesting in those cases and that we just keep it all tied together between these groups, because there is a part of it that feels like, at least with the Baxters, everything felt very attached to Michael's story, which is the most interesting story, where something with the Desire here felt like another show in its own right. So I hope they kind of bring it back next episode and tie it more together with all three of these stories here. But so far I'm giving it 8.2, still solid. And like I said, really stood out for me was a Charlie and Michael's story here and their conversation. That was something that stuck with me, and I do think it's very interesting. They have the grandson involved here. Someone might see that as cliche in a way to make things more interesting. It's too easy to have the grandson, but I think it's kind of what you got to do here, especially on a show that maybe didn't even have to have a season 2. It felt wrapped last season. It makes sense to keep things more gripping for this season going forward and get Michael more invested out of his slump. Let me know what you thought down below this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment, try to respond as many as I can. Please subscribe. You have no idea. It helps me in so many ways. You can become a member as well if you want to support me even more. That helps so much. You get exclusive live streams. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.